Hello, 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 hello. Today is April 21st, 2025. I'm a little late. I've been really busy this week. Oh my God, it's only Monday. Oh my goodness. But this is the Adroit Living session of the Erudition Network. Here, I like to talk about some things that will help improve mental health right where you are, holistically speaking, meaning not just singularly focused on one particular aspect, but getting the whole picture to help. If you've been a viewer all this time, I appreciate your patrons and your support. I also would like to thank all the new viewers that we've received. It's great that we're growing and expanding, but remember, I am really nervous in front of the camera, the lights, and all that sort of thing. And today, I want to bring some different things to you that I've shared in other platforms, and we're gonna see how that rolls out. Okay, this is a live interactive show, so feel free to comment. Hey, Pastor Sarton, I appreciate you coming. I got some stuff for y'all today. Let me know how it go down for you. How it go. I'm gonna try. It's a presentation as well, so I'm gonna try to maneuver all of this stuff. And I'm new to this, okay, but I'm true to it. So first, I want to reach down in my bag of FAFO lived experiences and share this little antidote with you guys. See how you feel about it. Just a little joke, just to ease, icebreaker. So, as a tribute to my son, Sean Anthony, it was his birthday. So happy birthday, Sean Anthony. Um, Sean Anthony was my handful baby. He was rambunctious. And we were up speaking of Sean Anthony. Hi, Sean Anthony. So Sean Anthony and his older brother only had two kids at the time, and my husband was active duty, and he was on duty at the time that my sons and I were at the playground. And it was during the era where African American women were getting into a bit of a conflict with white moms who were telling them how to speak to their children. And you know how you'll have an experience, you'll see something, you'll be like, man, I wish somebody would say something to me like that. It's not going to end well. So I won't say that again because I really didn't mean it when I said it. It was just one of those trending things that was like, what? I wish somebody would. So anyway, I was at the playground. I was running around with my kids and playing with my kids and the other kids on the playground. And I was wearing a caricature t-shirt. When I'm playing and I'm doing the things, I don't wear street clothes or whatever like you see here. So I'm running around playing with the kids and everything. My phone rings and I'm like, it's my husband. So I'm like, okay, I pull over to the side and let the kids play, all with each other, because at first everybody was playing individually. And I'm the type, I like to unite everybody and we all play together despite our cultural differences or whatever. So all the kids finally started playing together when they saw that I was playing with everyone, and everyone began to feel comfortable playing with everyone. And we were stationed in Virginia. So I answered the phone. It's my husband. And he's like, where are you guys at? I'm on my way home. Is dinner done? Is my sons? Are they asleep? Are they woke? Or whatever's going on? And I was like, oh, yeah, well, we at the park. I lost track of time. But we'll be there long before you ever get there. So no worries. So I hang up and I tell the boys. Now, they both on top of the sliding board, jungle gym, whatever. And they shy and they haven't really spoken above a whisper from what anybody ever seen. So I say, okay, boys, time to go. And Sean Anthony screams, no. I mean, like stranger danger, no. Okay. So I'm like, boy, I look around. I said, boy, because it seemed like a whole hush fell over the entire playground. It was a fairly big playground. And I'm like, boy, come on, let's go. We got to go. And he's like, no, I don't want to go. I want to stay and play. And I'm like, boy, you better come on down here. Don't make me come over there. And as I'm about to walk over there and tell him, boy, just come on, let's go, and help them down from the sliding board, this white woman, she decides the FAFO, and she says, she approaches me. She could have stayed where she was and had the conversation. She elected to approach me and come between me and my kids. So I told her, she was like, I just looked at the woman. I try very hard to be nice, and I give people ample opportunity to let me be nice. So the woman said, don't talk to him that way. Like she knew him. And she was like, uh, you take out your aggressions on a punching bag. Go to a gym and take out your aggressions there. I had not said anything to the child to be aggressive. I just said, boy, come on, let's go. We got to go. Your daddy is waiting for you. We got to go. And she's saying this to me. And I was like, something in me just snapped because I couldn't take it anymore because she was being loud. And now, even more people at the playground are starting to watch and everything. And I'm like, you're not finna put me out here like that. And I told her, I was like, I don't have misplaced aggression. First off, you don't even know me. You don't know my son. That boy a baby. And he's very articulate. He has a bank account. He got email addresses and everything. And he's homeschooled. Don't talk to me like you know us or anything. And it's time for him to go home. I don't raise degenerates to society. And you might want to watch your child because you was sitting over there chilling while your daughter was sitting over there needing a friend to play with. And on top of that, don't try to talk to me like you know me or know my child. He has a father at home and he's waiting for his sons to get there because he's on duty and he wants to see his sons before he goes to sleep. So I'm talking to her and getting an applause from everybody watching. I did not know. I kind of tuned everything out and zoned in. And now I'm narrowly focused on this woman who seems to try to be controlling the narrative and twisting the narrative all at the same time. And I'm like, look, you worry about what's going on with your kid. And then I'm like, come on. And then by the time I didn't notice, and by the time I'm still going in, Sean Anthony, as a tiny little baby, he just comes up to me and says, Mom, let's just go. Please, let's just go. Leave that lady alone. Let's just go home. So he was ready to go home. And I snapped out of it and I was like, yeah, let's go. I just lost track. And I was like, okay, I'm in the car trying to calm down. And I throw my music on and I'm driving and somebody honks the horn. They're driving next to me and they honk the horn and they say, and they roll the window down. They tell me to roll the window down. That's an old school roll the window down. But I rolled the window down and they was like, you told her, you said it right. And I'm happy you said it the way you did. You did an outstanding job. All at the red light, okay? So I'm like, okay, what do you say, Pastor Sarah? Sorry, let them have it in Jesus' name. I'm just saying, I get it. And the problem with us always acquiescing and allowing the narrative to be twisted is messing with the global mental health. And a lot of mental health is being caused because we're trying to be nice. We're trying to let things go. We're trying to let people and think the most positive perceptions of people in these events. But it comes a time where you really got to let God word your mouth and let it be well understood that I might look like a child having children, and I might even be a child having children. I didn't tell my age, but I was definitely not a teenager. Eddie and I got married when I was 21. So I definitely wasn't a child, but I did still look like I was 16. And everybody was always saying, oh, you look like you married your daddy. I'm like, what? But anyway, it was just a matter of the fact that, people fool around and they find out. And just let people be nice because you just never know where someone is mentally and what you're going to get when you fool around and find out. But anyway, now that we have that icebreaker out the way, I want to start today's show. Today's show was inspired by the collaborative global reviews that I wrote about quite some time ago. And I want to share it with you today. Okay, so people can read the same information but conclude different things. So this presentation is how I concluded something different in 2018 through 2022, and I shared it through those years. Then in 2022, I shared my enlightenment to earn my industrial organizational psychology PhD. This is how I did it. And it wasn't at Harvard or Oxford, because we need to show people that you can make these positive contributions and enlightenments in even an online schooling environment. So I was attending just an average online distant learning or online school program that was 100% online when I did this. Caution, please, for the purpose of the attached annotated bibliography, it is to provide studies of communication like feedback and report to the reactions. And report the actions or the outcomes to the communications using schooling and business settings. One of the focuses of my 2022 IO Psych dissertation was on the emerging culture of knowledge hiding. And a lot of people in our communities, especially when you're dealing with diverse communities, we're fully aware that there's some knowledge being hidden because it's just some need to know type things. Even in the military, there's things that you just don't need to know in order to fully operate. So knowledge hiding is what someone termed it a few years back. So anyway, and this was just an extension of those things. And the following, and it says the following reactions and outcomes is what I'm going to focus on. My dissertation focused on feedback in the school as a workforce, meaning the administrative sector, and the lived experiences of knowledge hiding among the PhDs, because they are the most knowledgeable about their experience and able to completely convey credible information transmission. The original literature review was inspired by a man named Butt. He had a pilot study, and then he did a follow-up study with Butt and Ahmed in 2019. So this was just me extending pre-existing global studies which were already in review. So one of the main current studies of inspiration, which was Butt and Ahmed, I'm probably not saying his name right, Ahmad, is probably more accurate. But anyway, the study was, are there any antecedents of top-down knowledge hiding in firms? And it's the evidence of the United Arab. So it's not just exclusive to that. And the reason why I stutter a bit is because I don't want people to be turned off by thinking that these things are exclusive to a particular location or a particular gender or a particular culture. This is something that is a global concern, and the particular stuff that I'm showing you are detailed information about smaller portions of where they studied these things at, to show a more broader picture in a magnifying glass, if you will. So I needed to say that. Sometimes I stutter because I don't know if people will understand what's going on. But anyway, Butt conducted a pilot study on knowledge hiding in the business management organization because it has been the topic in business organizations for several years. Then he went back and conducted another study with a co-author. However, which was Ahmad, and Butt and Ahmad's pilot study is geared towards providing on consequences, research questions, hiding about hiding knowledge and the things that it poses, hiding in workplace knowledge hiding and what it poses. to the business organization. But an admit found knowledge hiding can cause the victims of knowledge hiding to involuntarily resign, which was causing an attrition problem. I'm going to leave these slides up so you can kind of read over it yourself. But the attrition problem, which was was voluntary turnover, which means people were quitting their jobs and trying to go and find another job. But what they found, what Butt found was he conducted a study where he actually asked the people about their lived experiences. He found that some workers were saying, oh, well, when we worked with them, the managers were not talking to us properly. They wasn't training us properly, and they were hindering progress and work productivity. And they were falsely reporting um, work productivity or work evals. They were reporting it falsely and twisting the narrative to make it seem as if the worker did not um, did not just didn't follow the feedback they were given. But that was not true. What you say, Eddie? Oh, to my comments about the FAO's icebreaker. Yeah, you didn't look that. I didn't think you looked old. But yeah, anyway, that was the comments that I was dealing with. But anyway, so when Butt conducted that study where it interviewed people in the workforce who were experts in their field, it shed new light on the situation. In my perspective, I thought, okay, we need to have more studies that talk to or interview the people who have the lived experiences, who actually can convey what the experience is, as opposed to us using, statistics and things like that to try to explain what was going on or whatever. But stated senior managers are not fully cooperating with the knowledge seeker, which victimizes the knowledge seeker and causes them to want to leave their job. And that was one of the studies that was conducted because of the attrition problems in the workforce. So, Butt stated the culture of knowledge hiding exists because there is no workplace mechanism available for victims to seek resolution. But Ahmad allowed readers to understand managers are expected to fully provide feedback and guidance, which leads to productive and innovative work. But knowledge hiding hinders managers from meeting their expectations. But also found knowledge hiding culture can cause businesses to close, meaning businesses were failing. And they suggested future studies dive deeper into the knowledge of hiding of the knowledge hiding culture to determine more emerging predispositions and investigate the impacts it poses to the organization and individuals in their in other cultures. Meaning, this is a problem we want to know more about, and we want to know if it's exclusive to a particular culture, or is it something that's happening globally. So that's why this is a global collaborative review, and the study did go into a global review. As I was researching, I discovered that previously there were a few studies conducted on workplace knowledge hiding, and those studies were in global review. But I also saw something else. It was a study, an older study, which were on these older studies I considered seminal works or initial works. And in that initial work, I noticed that a study was being done in a workplace called information asymmetry. In the workplace information asymmetry. And that means that the information transmission within the organization, there was an imbalance because some people had information that other people didn't have. So as a result, you have some people who can hide knowledge from knowledge seekers, and they were doing that. And the study showed that people were doing that because they want to feel important. They don't want their jobs to be taken. And if they tell somebody who they're training, if they tell them everything they know about their job, then they're obsolete. They don't need the other person. They take the new person, pay them less than the more knowledgeable person and tenured person, bring in the novice, and now because he knows everything, so now you just train that person. And a lot of people were like, you're not going to trick me out of a job again, because they experienced that. They already lived that experience in another job. So it became more apparent that this is going to continue to be a problem. So that's how we concluded these studies needed to have these aspects examined more closely. The global economy could benefit from a modern global review of studies which examine the power of feedback using the Pygmalion and Golem effect, absorptive capacity, mimetic isomorphism, and studies about following orders. Such a study will aid observers' understanding of when teachers, not the occupation, but generally speaking, should learn about the power of feedback, how teachers should utilize the effects, and why the effects are used. The Pygmalion and Golem effects are well-known theories which a great deal of with a great deal of controversy. The controversy would subside if a modern global review studies were able to address the gray areas. Almost all the studies conduct on the effects have the same question. Meanwhile, the answer has been unspoken for far too long. So that's why I'm writing this and trying to present this. So how? Due to my background in lifelong observational studies of schools and business practices, I will use schools and business practices to make my points. There are many modern ways to attend schools, and the most effective method of profiting from information transmission will be further illuminated in a collaborative global review on the topics, which examine the power of feedback using the Pygmalion and Golem effects, which are widely known as teaching methods, and the vehicular processes known as absorptive capacity and mimetic isomorphism, which innately possesses feedback and signaling, which are both reciprocal acts with consequences. A lot of times people were conducting studies, PhDs in academia were conducting studies, and practitioners were also trying to say that feedback is more like a dictatorship. I tell you what to do and you follow the orders or follow the directions. However, feedback is actually reciprocal. You tell me what you want me to hear, but I can show you better than I can tell you, as the person that's seeking knowledge and the person that you're trying to get to follow directions or orders or feedback. But and the reason why I stated that is in my IO Psych PhD dissertation, I illuminated the main problems found in these information transmissions, and the ability to predictably realize the profits from it is information asymmetry. Information asymmetry means someone has more information than they are sharing. And you can find that there if you want to read more. But in 2022, my IO Psych PhD dissertation illuminated knowledge hiding as a factor of information asymmetry using global review studies of workplace information asymmetry and workplace knowledge hiding. I also clarified how information asymmetry and its knowledge hiding practices are a main hindering factor which prevents organizations from profiting the way business performers project. That's the business performer is the money, that money talk, right? You can learn more by Googling my name and continue on writing graduate of the School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Doctor of Philosophy, and the year 2022 to find the free entire copy of my 2022 IO PhD dissertation. So you don't have to just read my book that I've been showing you, but it would be nice if you read the book too. And you say, what book? Well, it's a book called if what is it? Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, and Your Success. Um, by Tina Phillips. You can find it on Amazon, or you can look for it wherever books are sold. And here, I'm gonna see. Yeah, okay. Here is the book. It looks like this. Go find that book. It has a lot of facts in there, information that may improve your mental health or just help you to move forward from some things you may have experienced and would like to move on from. But you got to know where to start, right? Start right here with identifying that this is, something you need to address. Um, anyway, ethical restrictions for studies led researchers to use public domain and the like for studies. So studies about public school became a norm and justified for various reasons, like understanding and controlling development, which was also a reason for developing and perpetuating brick and mortar schooling. A few of the reasons for developing different methods of schooling were to evolve and remain a relevant process of intellectual growth and development to the economy. However, the true need was because it was discovered there's no panacea to learning or teaching. The desire to evolve and maintain and remain relevant led people to forecast questions like what fosters growth and desirable development for the economy? How does one achieve that as fast as possible with as little effort as possible? Are those obtainable goals or unrealistic fantasies or unrealized fantasies? The fact is, with a fresh perspective, fantasies can be realized as obtainable goals. And that's one of the things I've addressed it over my years of contribution. So, manipulation versus control. So here we have another slide. I love these pictures because they speak volumes. So anyway, so control theories were widely studied and implemented in schools via the Pygmalion and Golem effects theories. The most common objective of all the studies of the Pygmalion theory and Golem effects were to learn how to use these effects to manipulate the recipient to predictably alter their performance, meaning the one who possesses information asymmetry can use their upper hand to control situations by managing how information is hidden or shared to those seeking information. An example of the Pygmalion theory is because you believe everything I say, if I tell you I believe you can accomplish a goal, you accomplish the goal despite challenges. An example of golem effect is if I tell you you will fail, but you do not like me or want to prove me, or because you want to prove me wrong, you succeed in spite of what I tell you, just to spite me. Okay, mental instability. The disclosed goal of the Pygmalion theory and Golem effects were to use them to help manipulate people to realize their full potential. My dissertation used such past studies that which were globally trending and in review, and to point out the obvious answers was just waiting for the author to write it. Once the answer has been stated, mimetic isomorphism and absorptive capacity will cause the answer key to spread like wildfire. Why? Because mimetic isomorphism and absorptive capacity are the tools or the vehicles that organizations use in order to copy or mimic other business practices which they think are successful, and they cater it, they change it just a little bit to fit their objective, their goals, and their business. So they're not quote unquote copying per se, but it's a copy. I was right about that wildfire. Apparently, it spread despite knowing the original author. The problem of that is the twisted narratives caused mental instability. You should not twist or take away or add to messages, especially when you don't fully understand them. But yeah, I can't control all that. I'm just reporting it. So please note, often used words such as teaching is an interchangeably used word in this episode, and at times is stated as an objective, not as an occupation. Despite those examples being derived from schooling using the teaching and student perspective and the business manager slash layperson's perspective. So that's why it's an interchangeable word. Please note, this information is intended for positive growth and development, not to harm or gaslight or hinder, which is some things I've noticed have been happening. So, distant learning or online schooling. I will not read aloud every slide verbatim. I happen to use these peer reviewed published studies in 2022, so I'm sharing how and why. And here is one that's titled A Framework of the Critical Success Factors of Virtual School System Implementation, a systemic literature review of 2018. And I told you these literature reviews are important because they compose of studies over a period of time, mainly because longitudinal studies or studies that take place for a long period of time, a lot of information gets lost. And that whole grapevine situation, I heard it through the grapevine. By the time it gets to you, it's all twisted and nobody really knows who's the author of confusion, unless you go to church. But I'm just saying, I'm just playing. But anyway, they say the author of the confusion is the devil, Bobby Boucher. But anyway, in this study that focused on the framework of the distant learning process, we see that they used the Saudi Arabian participants via questionnaires about the conceptual framework impacting the success of virtual schools. They coined the phrase information and communication technology. The study stated that they use virtual K through 12 schools, and they have made significant progress. And believe it or not, online school for K through 12 has existed far longer than what we knew when we started it during the COVID pandemic. It was years before. And distant learning at the higher level took place in the early 80s. So, yeah, there's that. But the result of the systematic review revealed 15 factors which have been categorized um, under 5 dimensions, namely technology. So a lot of times when we're trying to go and find these studies, we don't see them because we don't know these key words. So take your time, put it on pause, look at these things and read it. And if you want to go back and find it, go back and look at it. We all read the same information, but we come back with a different understanding. That's because the encoding process. I'll get into that more later, but you can read my book that I told you about and find out more now. Anyway, these aspects will the study showed that these aspects that they studied will be beneficial in understanding how students learn and how teachers learn to teach. And it's not just in the respect of school to teacher learning. It is the teaching as a concept, as a construct, as a objective, as a goal, where we use information asymmetry to balance the information transmission so that people have the ability to work well with one another. That's the objective, but knowledge hiding is a major problem, and we can't control that. But this study here, the impacts of a brief middle school self-affirmation intervention helped propel African American and Latino students through high school. These studies are smaller, more focused steps towards a bigger picture. That's why it was important to show and share. This what it was, the emphasis I want to place here was The psychological factors are identified, and the consequences of the African American and Latino students' experiences were examined and expressed. A lot of times, when we're conducting these studies, we can't do them in the business organization because proprietarized information and people wanting to retain their job, and they fear to lose their job should they over divulge their lived experiences and their feelings. Now, this study did also include white and Asian people, but they placed the emphasis on the Latino and African American students because those were the cultures who were disproportionately negatively impacted, and they wanted to learn more about this predisposition. And that's what that means. They were disproportionately negatively impacted. This study exhibits how impactful a brief intervention for students suffering from stereotypes can render desirable performance rates despite the length of time the students endured the stereotypes. The source in this study are related to the study and strongly support the concepts in the study. So you can feel free to read that. And if you want to discuss it, I'm open to that as well. But it's important that the reports do not make alterations, but they report what's actually going on. And from my lived experiences, I felt that this study was very accurate and well written, given its sensitivity, and it's more applicable to schools as a student learning and teachers learning to teach, as well as the PhDs who are in the administrative position running the schools. And this is applicable to everyone because everyone goes to school. I don't care where you are in the world, you are going to school. And the business organizations, the institutions of faith, and all kinds of things across genre, they're all taking from these schools. Everybody that's in the schools, they go to these organizations, they attend, they're members to these institutions. So it's applicable to everyone, and it behooves us all to understand these things a lot better. But this study, the effective versus the academic, a quantitative study of pre-service teachers' expected impact on their future students, meaning they want to know how did they impact the students that they tried to help, or the students who they came into contact with. And the focus of this study was to emphasize the value and importance of training teachers to have a realistic expectation of their teaching experience, because it will have a grave impact on society. Remember what I just said a moment ago? That's society that we're talking about. And they explained the methodology included a 4-point Likert scale survey, a 4-point instead of a 5, which is a far better readout than what you would have with a 5-point. I'm just saying, just in case you didn't know, so they can get better readings, better readouts. But anyway, there was another study by Good ETAL. Okay, we're going to just do it like that. The study examines the Pygmalion effect in the classroom by first acknowledging teachers speak differently to different students, meaning some teachers speak to children who are in marginalized community or culture. They speak to them differently than people who they do not feel are in or of a marginalized community. So that study spoke very loudly to practices that were hindering desirable knowledge, skills, and abilities of students and teachers' ability to actually teach and reach the students. What is it? Good ETL study stated the expectations of the effects are a fortunate coincidence if the outcome is what it is expected to be, because the results are inconsistent. And the inconsistencies are the reasons why people keep studying these things, because they're predicting a particular outcome. And when they do not get that outcome, they want to point fingers and blame somebody. It's not the teacher's fault all the time. Sometimes it's because students or learners learn differently. And a lot of times students are distracted by the signals they picking up. You ever been in the classroom and or even at work and you witness some injustices occurring and now it's impacting your performance and you didn't really realize that it impacted you to that extent before it was brought to your attention that you didn't perform as expected? This was happening in the classroom, and a lot of people weren't really making that strong correlation to show this was happening until various studies later, when they started to say, let's see if this is happening in another genre, in another setting, change everything up, switch everything up. So this study was the teacher's expectations effects on needed supportive teaching, student motivation, and engagement, a self-determination perspective. That I know that's a mouthful, but this study reinforces the concept that using positive dialogue along with motivative interactions is the best method to accomplish positive outcomes. The study showed the effect of differential treatment towards students and the outcome it had on the students' performance when students realized they were being treated differently. And it wasn't happening in a vacuum, because these things were happening even in the workforce, in the workplace, in different settings around the world. And I'm just bringing all that to you in a very succinct manner. So, this study with Johnston, they found their study covered a 10-year span. So 10 years of studies researching the Pygmalion and Golem effects, and the impact it had on performances. While it also stated the topic is a at least 50-year-old topic. And it compared several studies that are qualitative and quantitative, and some of them was mixed studies, and they included the importance of the student's perspective. The Pygmalion and Golem effect is perception based, and the purpose is to determine holistic methods to understand what impacts students' performance. Therefore, the perspective of the recipient of the theories could be explored to understand how and why the theories cause the effect. The Johnston ECAR believes understanding the student's perspective is important to linking the efficacy of the Pygmalion and Golem theories, because the understandings are used to shape research. That's vital to understand, because it's not just happening in the school setting with teachers and students. It's happening with managers and their subordinates or their workers. It's happening in a manner of information asymmetry, and the information asymmetry practices using the upper hand to control or manipulate situations, which inevitably could cause consequences that the person did not know or expect and was not necessarily trying to cause or perpetuate, because it's already out there. Anyway, in this study, I don't know, I think I may have did that twice. Therefore, the perspective of the recipient of the theory should be explored to understand how and why the theories affect. And it's not just seen in schools. I don't know why this repeated itself, but anyway, there was another study. It says, I am as incompetent as the prototypical group member, an investigation of naturally occurring Golem effects in work groups. Okay, because I told you the Golem effects and Pygmalion theories were applied in the schools because it was easier, cheaper, more obtainable. And it was also applied in the workforce. So in this study, we can see how you can see it. You pause and look at it. We can see how the golem effect was thought to um, occur naturally in when we did not have the Pygmalion theory. So basically, you'll have a negative thought if you're not motivated in a positive way. If I don't motivate you in a positive way, then you're going to start thinking poorly, and then you're going to start performing because you want to spite everybody and say, you didn't believe in me, but I did it because you never told me you believed in me. So there's that. So those were considered more self-fulfilled prophecies. But please take the time to read it. I only have an hour to present, so I'm trying to rush through it so I can present all the slides to you. But the study allows readers to conclude, in the absence of the Pygmalion effect, the golem effect emerges. Diverse cultures, ages, and both genders were fully represented, so that diversity was absolutely essential and vital to the understanding. The limitations were the inability to examine cross-sectional nature design, which would demonstrate causal direction. So there are some downfalls to that, which we can explore in a later time because it's already been done. But then there was this other study, innovation, but via building absorptive capacity to interactive effects of top management, support of learning, employee learning, orientation, and decentralization culture. So you know how somebody, I'm gonna let you read that. You know how somebody in the workforce may come to you in the wrong manner, and it kind of desensitizes you to passive aggressive behavior, where somebody will say something real sly to you and think you ain't catch it, but you caught it. But you being nice and you just trying not to, you're trying to stay focused and get the objectives done and walk away from these people. You're not trying to go clubbing with these people after work. You're not trying to go get drinks with these people after work, but because you're so over it. So that's what that's talking about. It's talking about how they examine and analyze these practices where people used these absorptive capacities and these other vehicles of copying what they think are, or what they're told are, effective methods to get participants or people in the workforce to actually perform in a productive manner. The participants were upper management and their employees. The objective was to learn how the intricate details of absorptive capacity could be manipulated to advance, predict, and benefit from the application of absorptive capacity. This study used related past studies, which noted three sequential learning processes: exploratory learning, transformative learning, and explorative learning. So there's different methods to the madness, and they examined it. And here is just a brief synopsis of what that was. Remember, you can pause and look at this and read it, but I have so many slides, so I have to keep going. These are important for you to look at and read, though, so make sure you do. And here's a study which was also important, but it was presented to me by another source. It was the mentorship of leaders, which examined the mentorship of leaders is an important situation, even during an assignment. Using common experience studies is an example, because most commonly people have these lived experiences. So it's a sort of say less type of situation. But when we feel like we don't need to really say anything, or we should say less, they're looking like, what happened? When they're really asking, do you know what we're doing? Are you aware? And you're like, stop playing with my mental health. Of course I'm aware, and I'm trying to be nice because I'm trying to keep my job, or I'm trying to get this grade, or whatever your motivation is for trying to be nice about what you're experiencing. So You can read about this one as well. Keep going through because I'm almost out of time and I'm starting to stress out because I'm running out of time. But a lot of times we see the methodology in these things and we are triggered to think that that's the only way, or because it's consisting of schools, then it's not applicable to anything else, or because this is the source that we got the information from, it's only about them. It's not true. It's just showing you that the source of the information is credible. But anyway, let me keep going. What is this? It also questioned why teachers this study also questioned why leaders and teachers allow the negative impacts of misuse of the Pygmalion theory to continue to follow students from one level to the next. The past studies included valid and relative research, such as Rosenthal's research on the Pygmalion and Golem effects, and that's where it originated from. And you'd be surprised to find they didn't tell people to implement this to people. That part. I'm just saying it was not a study that was intended for people to apply it in the method in which they applied it, especially to the vulnerable community, which are students, especially not in a safe space, which is a brick and mortar school. I'm just saying. But you can break this down and read it and look at it. I have to keep going. I got 5 minutes. No, 9 minutes. Anyway, so there's another study. Oh, wait, let me see. Leadership in the workplace meetings. So it's examining the meetings between the management and the employee, the intersection of leadership styles and the follower gender. So it's going into the stereotypes of the gender role expectancy of which we see in the workplace, where we see we have a man and we want that man to in the workplace as a manager to act a certain way. We have a woman as a manager and we expect her to act in a certain way. So that's that gender leadership style and the followership that they expect, because they in having those particular group of people, you expect a male leadership to have certain types of followers, and you expect a female leadership to have another set of followership. So that's important. That was very important to study, because even in the schools, they felt that they had to examine that same aspect. If the teacher was certified or not certified to teach, or if the teacher was a male versus a female, and the leadership and followership were the undertone to all those studies, and they came out to be inconclusive or have inconsistencies based on factors they did not consider, which I attempted to illuminate 2018 to 2022 at this particular institution, to earn my PhD in industrial organizational psychology. So I'm just sharing these things with you, not necessarily verbatim, but to shed the light on where this information came from and why. So if you go back and you see that those studies derived from previous studies, but I shed light on various aspects which people didn't really think about, let alone write about. Anyway, the underdog effect by this study, as these studies continue to evolve, we saw that when low expectations increase performance, and it was like, well, why is that? What's going on there? And before they wrote it like he did, people didn't know why that was one of the inconsistencies that was observed to occur in these studies when people were studying the leadership followership relationship and the productivity and the inconsistent outcomes, which were in which were difficult to make a prediction as to what to expect. So people just, kept on trying, and it was like, well, we're going to just hit and miss because for some it's effective, whereas for some it's not. So they just kept on trying. But this study presented the findings of past studies, along with the reason there is a discrepancy in the effects of Pygmalion and Golium effects, which granted the study validity and made the challenge for future similar studies um, intriguing. So that's why I was intrigued by it. And that's why I was like, okay, let's go and observe. You don't necessarily need to conduct a whole study in order to observe it, because a lot of these things took place over a long period of time and they call for longitudinal studies. That's why we have things called global review. So when studies go into global review, you can see who all conducted studies in this manner, in this format, and you can then make an enlightenment if you have one. But anyway, because all of it's broken up in sectors and there's no positive correlations to say this is that. And that's one of the things that I did. But this study, the impacts of big data analysis and absorptive capacity on sustainable supply chain innovation. This was important because this is that money talk. This is what people, stockholders, shareholders, and investors and consumers too. Everybody wants to know about it. So they was like, let's conduct a study that shows us these things. So in this study, it believes it is important to for companies to successfully examine data which aids companies to be best equipped to supply the demands of their customers as a time and technology changes. So a lot of times people avoid change. They don't want to do anything modern. They just mastered what was modern to them in their era. Now it's evolved and they like, I don't care. I'm about to retire. I want to just stick with what I know. I don't want to learn anything else. But there's a book written about how we're losing invaluable, knowledgeable workers. I'll get to that at another time. But this study, I'm going back and forth so you can see how I made the connection. But this study, kindergarten expectations and outcomes, understanding the influence of educator and child expectations on children's self-regulation, early reading, and vocabulary outcomes. So you see, they didn't even skip the kindergartners. They are looking at everything in a broad overview, one thing at a time. But because we were looking at one thing at a time in such sectors to keep things separate and compact, we need to still go back in that during the global review and make that connection and have that understanding. So it was important to the K through 12 academic experience and the impacts it has on different grades. And it's not just for the moment, it's from grade to grade to grade, and even when they enter the workforce. Um, this this study found experienced teachers had a higher teacher efficacy, but teachers' expectancies were about the feelings the teacher felt toward the student, not related to their academic ability. Some dissonant findings were some dissonance findings may be due to the differences in the educator's professional knowledge. And there we again go with the information asymmetry problem that we have seen. In this study, four meditation models of teacher expectancy effects on students' outcomes in mathematics and literacy. Again, the reason why they break that down is because they want to have a very clear cut and dry understanding, and they were struggling to have that. So they used different types of studies that focused on different things. And here, the discussion provided additional clarity to the findings of self-expectancy. One uncontrollable moderator is achievement values like attainment value or importance, intrinsic value, and utility value or usefulness of the task. These things mean that if I don't find it important, or somebody is not finding it important, or if I'm not getting the credit for my work, then why would I perform for you? Why am I going to do that? If you are the manager and you're the only one who's going to get the credit for it, you're the only one who's going to get paid for it, why would I help you? There again, you'll see the information asymmetry in the workplace, or period. The information asymmetry, meaning I know more than you do, and why would I help you? So for now, that, because I'm out of time, that is all we're gonna go over for now. But I want you to see, I'm going to present more of these to you later. Sorry, I couldn't see the comments when I had the presentation up. So Pastor Sarah, I have no idea what you're saying about, really. And I hope it wasn't bad and that I missed something that I could have cleared up. And hey, Jackie, I appreciate you. Got to go back and watch the replay. Yes, please do go back and watch the replay. I'm going to put more information out here, and it's not just going to be on a Monday. I'm going to get this information out there, and I'm going to use different medias to do so. And I'm trying to make it so that it's a little bit more entertaining than just straightforward facts, but it's all going to be facts. Again, rewatch, and if you want to know more, Google. I'm out there. I'm just saying. I'm saying it for mental health, because a lot of times we think something's wrong with us because we're encountering these experiences, or we're having these lived experiences that we can't really share because nobody's going to understand what's happening. And it's not just in the schools, it's in the workforce, it's in all institutions where people come together and they have this information asymmetry when there's a learner who is seeking information. So remember, mental health is physical wealth. I'll see you next episode. Mental health is physical wealth.